Is there somebody? Bushes or no?
Эй, последний герой!
Hello, man, come on. He's dead. Someone clip that, please. Kill number 9 or kill number 10.
I'm trying to get rid of this mark key.
Huh. Weird.
Weird audio in Tarkov? Nah. Oh! I'm dead.
Are you like, you're dead? Oh no. I'm not gonna lie, I got in the perfect spot to see that from a distance.
Did you just watch me running?
I did.
Take him, my gun!
Oh,
Ooh, what gun is that? Goons? Maybe goons. Maybe. Yo, was that the fucking goon? Please tell me that wasn't the goon. That looked like him. Dead. We're gonna die. Movement. You smoke? No, bro. Why? Most random question, but I don't smoke, bro. Why? What are your new settings? Don't worry, boys. I got you. I'll make a YouTube video. So here's the video. Alright, first of all, as you can see, the game looks a lot different, right? Looks like a cartoon. It's very good. As you can see, the lighting's really nice inside stores. You can see the loot way easier than usual. What are the advantages to this? So I'll give you the example of what I think they're good for. As soon as I turn these on, I gain 10 FPS on interchange. I'm not even kidding. I got way more performance than usual. This obviously depends on what type of specs you're running on your PC. If you've got a better graphics card, then it might not give you the advantage, but I would definitely recommend trying to see if it helps. It definitely helped me and my PC. Also, what are the other advantages to this? In my opinion, I think these settings are kind of overpowered in certain situations. Obviously, in online raids, fences don't render in properly. So there's fences like this. I'll go up and show you real quick. These fences right in front of me, which are everywhere by the way, on like all maps, they don't render properly. So you'll see like the edges of these, but none of this hex grid stuff will be rendered in. So you can shoot through them like no problem at all. I'm guessing it's something to do with like the MIP streaming. It's part of the feature to help with the graphics cards load or whatever. I'm not entirely sure how it works with all the technicals. I'm not an expert at that. But all I do know is these settings are worth using. Another example, player scouts and loot. Player scouts and PMCs and any sort of character model killer, they also it's actually kind of overpowered in my opinion. And obviously loot stands out way more. As you can see running through here, look at the lighting. The lighting is absolutely insane. I know you're gonna ask, I'm gonna post effects right here. There we go. So what I'm running is chill wave. I know it looks a little bit crazy, but trust me, this is what I run, and it works well with these settings. Outside does look a little bit over the top, but I like to disable them until I get inside the store, and then turn them on. Okay, that's the important part, the graphics settings. Texture quality, low. Shadow quality, low. LOD, 2. Visibility, 1000. Shadow visibility, 40. This is important. This makes shadows way less inside rooms, so you can see easier. TAA, one-time sampling. HBAO, off. SSR, off. Anisotropic filtering, off. NVIDIA reflex low latency, on and boost. Make sure you put this on. It will help your game, okay? Sharpness at 0. And another important part is MIP streaming. MIP streaming and texture quality low is what makes the game look like this. Potato mode. Also, another thing. Game. 62 FOV is what I run. People ask me all the time, so I'm going to quickly break it up real quick for you. I don't run max FOV because I think max mode. It will help your game, okay? Sharpness at 0. And another important part is MIP streaming. MIP streaming and texture quality low is what makes the game look like this. Potato mode. Also, another thing. Game. 62 FOV is what I run. People ask me all the time, so I'm going to quickly break it up real quick for you. I don't run a max FOV because I think max FOV is more of a disadvantage than an advantage. Yes, you do get more peripheral vision, which is great, but you sacrifice the smaller hitboxes, right? Like, not the hitboxes, but the character models are smaller. And long hallways are even harder to see down and spot people. So I recommend a lower FOV. And the lower you go, make sure you use free look, and you can compensate the peripheral vision with the free look, man. And also another benefit to lower FOV is scopes are more zoomed in. I'll give you an example now. As you can see, this is what it is without the low FOV. And here's even lower FOV. Boom. Big difference on scopes, which I think is huge. But in my opinion, I recommend 60 or anywhere around that. I'm running 62, that's my preference. Those are the settings, boys. I highly suggest you run this. For some reason in offline mode, the graphics aren't like what they are in online, but trust me, once you try them and try an online raid, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's crazy the difference these settings do. And in my opinion, I think these settings are overpowered compared to normal settings, and anyone can run them. So I definitely think it's worth using them and giving them a shot. Anyway, boys, that's the settings video. Hope you enjoyed. I will give an example of other maps of what they look like. Probably a factory and maybe a labs at the end of the video. But yeah, have a good one, boys. Enjoy.
Okay, so Foves has worked performance in Tarkov, and then the settings tab is the most important for Tarkov performance, even over the in-game settings to an extent. So you want to go to program settings here, make sure you're not in global, escape your manage 3D settings tab is the most important for Tarkov performance, even over the in-game settings to an extent. So you want to go to program settings here, make sure specifically your manage 3D settings tab is the most important for Tarkov performance, even over the in-game settings to an extent. So you want to go to program settings here, make sure you're not in global, escape from Tarkov, and then these are the settings quickly I'll show you that I use currently that Foves set up for me. Now, if you don't understand this, like I don't, I have a list of like what everything does essentially. So the sharpening is just to, I use this sharpening instead of the in-game sharpening because it just looks a little bit cleaner and it's easier for me to see things. And I think I get better stream quality as well. So I also use G-Sync. Some people don't like it, some people do. I think because it just looks a little bit cleaner. Now, if you don't understand this, like I don't, I have a list of like what everything does essentially. So the sharpening is just to, I use this sharpening instead of the in-game sharpening because it just looks a little bit cleaner and it's easier for me to see things. And I think I get better stream quality as well. So I also use G-Sync. Some people don't like it, some people do. I think it feels smoother, so I use it. Power management mode is to prefer maximum performance. Texture filtering down here, you'll see. Some people don't like it, some people do. I think it feels smoother, so I use it. Power management mode is to prefer maximum performance. Texture filtering down here, you'll see, is on, so it gives the most like FPS boost without quality, you know, degrading the quality essentially. So that's a must-have in my opinion. And then you have threaded optimization, which takes advantage of all the cores in the GPU and or CPU, sorry. And then VSync is going to make sure you have consistent and unlocked frames if you have this off. Make sure you have VSync off. If you have it on, you might get locked at either 60 or 100 frames, whatever it might be, or 120, sorry, frames. So make sure VSync in programs off. Make sure you have VSync off. If you have it on, you might get locked at either 60 or 100 frames, whatever it might be, or 120, sorry, frames. So make sure VSync in program settings in the NVIDIA panel is off. You can copy these and try them, or you can use them as a baseline, you know, and then just like change things and test it, blah, blah, blah. Take in program settings. In the NVIDIA panel is off. You can copy these and try them, or you can use them as a baseline, you know, and then just like change things and test it. We're going to go to the change resolution tab, and we're just going to double check that you're in the right refresh rate, which is, you know, you're going to want to be at the high. I could not recommend it. Use this actually instead of post effects entirely. I use 60 brightness, 55 contrast, 120 gamma, 90 digital vibrance, and then I use my actual monitor setting on about 50% brightness just because 100% kind of flashbangs and hurts my eyes after playing for a while, but it's all preference. This is a good baseline if you want to maybe get away from using post effects, because post effects does actually lower performance and feels real choppy for me and many other people. So give this a try, see if you like it. It doesn't mess with your performance at all, so can't really go wrong with it, you know. Okay, so for in-game settings, you have nothing on this page really matters, is all just preference. Then you have the automatic RAM cleaner and only use physical cores. So Foves actually has 2 programs installed that do what these are supposed to do a little bit more efficiently and better than Tarkov does itself. So there really isn't any point to use these. You can, like, I have the only physical cores checked, but I already have that covered, so it really doesn't make a difference. Moving over to graphics. I play 1440. I do, you know, native 69 aspect ratio. If you get really bad frames, like you're playing on a laptop or something, I've even seen people use 4:3 like stretch res. It makes the game look terrible, but it does bump up frames by a ton. Full screen is typically considered the best for frames. This doesn't matter because you're going to customize all this. So texture quality, I like to use high. You know, if you're in the lower end system, lower and low, depending on your system. To 1500 for reference, I have a 3080 FTW3 with a 12900K 32 gigs of. I use TAA high because it looks awesome, but if it's off, I always keep this. DLSS and FSR, they really only help you if you are playing on 1440, but you have a lower end GPU. So if you're playing on, like, you're in that situation, try it, but because they do hurt your frames a little bit, but it makes the game look so awesome. And when you're in system, I said that right. I keep it on per texture. It just helps, you know, smooth everything, remove like blurriness. It'll be well, not really smooth. It helps sharpen things, so it removes blurriness, easier to see people. So what you want to do, if you want to use VSync, right? I have mine off because I use the G-Sync stuff. It doesn't really make a huge difference for me. But if you keep it off in the NVIDIA control panel like you should, and lowers frame rate, used binaural right now. I know they said they're getting rid of this and coming out with something new. Exact map all the time and really dial them in. It only really matter if you were post effect, really make the game look better. Wouldn't touch it. Definitely don't mess with it. Now, because of all those NVIDIA settings, like I said earlier, I currently don't use post effects. When I use post effects, this is what I use. Post effects, there really isn't any like best post effect setting. It would only really matter if you were playing the same exact in-game time on the same exact map all the time and really dial them in. So for that reason, I just like my game ready to go all the time. I don't use them. It definitely hurts frames, definitely makes it feel more choppy. These are my volume settings if you care about that. I do use binaural right now. I know they said they're getting rid of this and coming out with something new, so I'll probably use it until then. And then my keybinds, you know, definitely don't copy these. I have weird keybinds, but just because people ask me all the time. There you go. So I'm sure you guys remember Phobes from my last video. They did all of my overclocking and all that because I simply don't understand that stuff. If I went in there and I was messing around with like, you know, whatever 0.37 and all these like speeds and stuff in my BIOS, I definitely would have bricked my PC. So cannot recommend them and their service enough. I actually just recently worked out a discount code with them for you guys if you want to get your PC tuned or get the evaluation services to see like what you would need to do to upgrade your PC to reach like certain goals. You can use code TREY24K on their website. And yeah, like I said, man, I cannot recommend them enough. I've been repping their stuff way before they even offered to sponsor me. So shout out Phobes, super, super, super helpful. And that's all I'm going to say about the overclocking stuff. I don't know enough to talk about it. I'm sure there's guides out there, so do that at your own risk for sure. But I'm not going to be the one that breaks your PC by telling you to do something that I did or they did for me, because I do not know, okay?
Good day, ladies and gents, this is Tarkov. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Video. So the first thing you see is object LOD quality. The windows, it might be a bit, if you like to play those maps, not as off, always off. NVIDIA DLSS, I don't think it changed much from the previous patch. I don't think VG upgraded DLSS to 3.0, so my advice is not to use it. Maybe if you play on 4K, you can use balanced or something, personal preference. FSR 1, I think it's the same as the last patch. FSR 2, I heard good reviews about FSR 2.1 for this patch. So if you have an AMD card or even have an NVIDIA GPU and you still want to try FSR, feel free to. It works the same as DLSS, just the technology from AMD. So it doesn't look too bad on 2K or 4K, and it actually takes some load off your GPU. So FSR, give it a go if you want to. Next thing is HBAO. That is the setting for shadows. If you have it on max performance, high, ultra, whatever, like the lower you go, the higher is the quality of the changing shadows. However, it does affect your frames. Right now we are at 126, let's say 129. Enable HBAO. It actually didn't change much. Interesting. However, I'm pretty sure HBO does affect frames, and I wouldn't recommend putting it high. Like, use those settings. I typically keep it off. SSR is screen space reflections, I think. And basically what it does, it gives you a better reflection on the water, but it does lower your frames on maps like Lighthouse and Woods, because there is a lot of water around, and therefore more rendering needs to be done, therefore you get worse frames. So let's aim in this area. I think this is water, so if I change settings you should be able to see some difference. 142 frames. Nope, didn't change much. Maybe there isn't much water on streets. Like for example, this area is watery. And if there isn't much water, it doesn't affect your frames too much. I typically played with SSR on the lowest setting in the previous patch. But I decided to turn it off when I started playing more of Lighthouse, because it did affect my frames. I think I lost about 10, maybe 15 frames on Lighthouse, so I disabled that setting. SSR off. Well, yeah, the water kind of disappears. It looks nice. It doesn't affect your frames too much, so I would say that's your personal preference. Anisotropic filtering, I don't feel like it really makes much difference on Tarkov. I keep it off. That makes sure that the textures are rendered properly at a longer distance. What else do we have? NVIDIA low latency. I don't think it makes any difference, to be honest. If you put it on and boost, it literally unlimits your frames. That's the only reason I'm using it, to not have any limits on my frames. Overall, that technology is supposed to make sure that your input delay with your mouse and keyboard is lowered as much as possible, but personally I haven't noticed much difference with it on or off. Sharpness, personal preference, FPS limit, nothing to change. Z-blur, chrome abbreviations, noise, keep it off. It makes your image very noisy, very ugly. No reason to use that. Grass shadows, I keep it off. It affects your performance and you typically don't see that much of a difference. High quality is said to affect the performance too, but I haven't seen any difference. So if you were to have it on or off, I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. And I think right now we should talk about texture quality, shadows, and MIP streaming. So first of all, texture quality. I would advise to play on medium or low this swipe, not high. I can't confirm that this is with anyone, that it's to do with the textures. However, even if you have high frames in the game, for example 100 frames on streets or like 110 frames on customs, there is a problem in the game with the frame rendering at the moment. So even though you have very high frames, it will feel like your game is running at 60-70 frames, and that's to do with the frame rendering. The game might be skipping the render of some frames, and I have a feeling it might to do with the higher textures, because I definitely had more input lag when I played on high texture settings in the previous wipe, so I couldn't play on high settings. Even though it didn't affect my frames much, I felt the input lag, and this wipe it feels much worse with the frame render. Last wipe it happened only on Lighthouse, but this wipe it happens on every map. I have no idea what it's to do with, but it might be to do with the high texture quality. So keep it on medium or low. MIP streaming. MIP streaming worked pretty bad last wipe. People's games were crashing, and I still don't think it works properly. So I decided to keep MIP streaming off in the previous wipe for the obvious reasons. Even though I said that people should keep it on, after some testing I changed my mind. And I would say the easiest way
Вали кепку на! А ты петуха! А ты А ты шалава! Сука ты, блядь, и упырь, блядь! Дохина, тварь!
to determine if you need to use MIP streaming or not. If you have a very low-end GPU,
What's going on? This will level up your metabolism.
Yo, what's up everyone? That means while you walk, first of all, endurance. You level up endurance while walking and running without being overweight. So if you look at your PMC and you see that weight is yellow, it means he is overweight. And if it's not yellow or red, which is super overweight, that means while you're walking or running, you're leveling up endurance. And vice versa works for strength. Whenever your PMC is overweight, even a tiny bit, it doesn't have to be super heavy, just a tiny bit. As soon as the weight is yellow, you start leveling up strength while walking and running, but you can't level up strength and endurance at the same time, only one skill at a time. So elite endurance gives you increased stamina by 75%, increased endurance, and decreases jump stamina drain. Also it says it affects your breathing time, and breathing is independent of energy. No idea what that means, no idea how that works. As I said earlier, you level up strength by running and walking while being overweight. With strength, you can jump higher, you can carry more weight. It increases your melee strike power, so if you can't one-tap people in the head with a hatchet or an RR pickaxe, with elite strength, it will be very easy to do. It also increases your movement and sprint speed by 20%, which is a really nice addition. You throw nades further. Aiming drains less stamina. And weapons, body armor, and chest rigs are now weightless. So if you look at my PMC, since I have maxed out strength, me taking the guns off, as well as armor and helmet, does not affect my weight. Only backpack, my rig, and I think my gamma. Yeah, those are the only items which, well, and the pockets. Those are the only items which affect my weight. So while wearing all of this, I am literally weightless. I weigh 0 kg. So vitality, you increase your level of vitality by taking damage and losing blood. On elite level, it stops all the bleedings by itself. So, and I think it doesn't work properly. On elite level, you simply can't get any bleedings. It's just impossible. You just won't get them. And generally, the higher the level, the less are the chances of you getting bleed. So even if you don't have maxed it out, leveling it up is pretty important and can sometimes save you a couple of seconds, during which like you don't have to heal during the fight and you can just keep fighting. So how do you level up stress resistance? You level up stress resistance by receiving damage, breaking legs, and you can't be under painkiller. And since I always pre-painkiller,
You need to be worried about Bear.
Да понял, понял я.
kill in the beginning of the raid, my stress resistance is very low. It's only level 9. And the buffs which stress resistance gives to you are decreased chance of a pain shock. I guess it's when you receive pain and that blurs your screen. And that also decreases your hand shimmer. And on max level, you get Berserk mode, which I think I'll show you a video. It looks kind of funny and a bit laggy. On max level, whenever you are very low HP, I think it's 150 or 250 or something, it gives you a painkiller effect for like 30 seconds. So even if your legs are blacked out and you have not used a painkiller, you can still keep running for a bit of time. Immunity decreases negative effects from different stims, water, and it reduces the poison effects, as well as it prolongs your painkiller time. How do you raise immunity? You raise immunity when you eat something with negative effects, or you use a stimulant with a negative effect. And on max level immunity, you get a chance to have no negative effects from stimulants, as well as have total immunity to poisons. Alright, intellect. I'm level 70. I play like 7-10 hours every single day, and I'm still at level 0. I guess my PMC is as dumb as a table, and I'm not sure if you can even read. Anyway, so charisma. It says that it decreases traders' cash prices as well as increases loyalty rate. I don't think it's properly implemented in the game, so we can't really see huge effects of it. And you leveled up by leveling up your I think search, attention, perception. Basically, whenever you find new items, like you open a box and there is a new item in there and you pick it up, those two actions leveled up. First of all, finding the item, and secondly, picking it up. Now we're gonna talk a bit about guns. So pistols, SMGs, all of this works exactly the same. Whenever you hit somebody using a pistol, that increases your pistol level, and that will lead to a increased reload speed, increases weapon switching speed, and decreased recoil. That applies to all type of different guns. Throwables. You level up throwables whenever you throw nades. Just throwing a nade levels up, and the higher your skill, the less amount of stamina you need to use to throw a grenade, and it also increases the throw strength. In other words, you can throw the nade further. And on elite level of throwables, you will not lose any stamina while throwing nades. So in other words, you can keep spamming nades as much as you want, and it won't affect your stamina. When you level up MJOs, it increases your aiming speed, so when you ADS, and it also reduces your aiming sound. I'm not sure if it's implemented properly. I think the skill got implemented in the previous wipe, and I think